Well, that has to be it now, doesn't it? For years at Survivor Series, we have done Raw versus SmackDown. Obviously, Vince McMahon went away and Triple H has taken over, and he has decreed that when we get to the November pay-per-view, it should be War Games. And given what we saw last night, I just give it a round of applause. This was the correct decision. Also, hello, my name is Simon What Culture. Thank you very much for joining me as always, and that's right. We just had a pay-per-view premium live event, which means I appear in your lives, and I take the finger of power, and I give the good bits an up, and the bad bits are down. And if you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, that doesn't even make sense, you are totally right. But we're doing it anyway. Man, do I like the fact that commentary in WWE is now more free than it ever has been. Because our first match was the Women's War Games match, and Michael Cole basically said, oh, you see, these two people, they haven't liked each other since 1637. And if you go to the 1842 war between those two families, oh my gosh, the beef. It just added so much to it. It also meant that it was Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, Mia Yim, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka taking on Damage Control, Rhea Ripley, and Nikki Cross. And given that they were tasked of going out there and having the first proper War Games match on the main roster, well, I think they did a flubbing great job. I mean, it was basically like all the War Games matches you've ever seen, but you could say that about any stipulation. And we started off with Bianca Belair and Dakota Kai, with the story being, well, Bianca, she may be the Raw Women's Champion, but she's still a fighter. Of course, when the first 5 minutes was up, she was large and in charge, but this is when Io Sky got in the thing, meaning the tag team champions were now able to beat Bianca up. This is why you want the advantage in War Games. Help. Bianca was able to hit them with a double suplex, but that didn't last long because eventually the wrestling maths caught up with her, because 2 taking on 1 is never going to add up to success. But it was alright because another 5 minutes then went down, and in came Asuka. Now you have to assume that when we get to WrestleMania, we are going to do Asuka versus Io Sky, because once again we teased that, and eventually Bianca Belair and the Empress of Tomorrow just grabbed these two, started throwing them into the cage. And poor Dakota Kai, she took so many shots during this match. I hope somebody gave her a hug after. It was still classic wrestling tennis though. I mean, you remember when Roger Federer was in a War Games match and he did really well, because just as they were finding their footing, it was time for Nikki Cross to get involved. I was in tears too because she brought kendo sticks and trash can lids into the ring, and I was like, where did these come from? Did the Starship Enterprise just beam them down? And also, why does she need it? There's no need. Also, if you are doing that, why don't you get a phaser? Because if you've got a phaser, you can go pew, 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 and just vaporize people, and she absolutely crushed Asuka's head into the cage door. Who knows what that did to her brain? So then, thankfully, it was time for Alexa Bliss. This has triggered carnage, though, because all the weapons were being used, and I can only assume that Cross got pissed off about all of this, because she climbed to the top of the cage and she came down with a giant splash. Now, in 2022 wrestling, people do this stuff and we don't shout about it enough, but that is so damn scary. I mean, that is terrifying to the point there is the scarometer, and I could give it a spin. Where did it stop? Very, very scary. Bayley then decided she was the Dark Knight because she was all about escalation, because when she was allowed to go, she found a bunch of tables and some ladders. The heels used them instantly, and surprise, surprise, that did work. It got even more nuts. Why? Because Mia Yim was in and she had even more toys. So once again, it was Batman. It meant that poor Kai got dropped on a trash can too, and I was like, will someone please take care of her? This is absolutely redonkulous. And then we had this beautiful spot where everybody gave everybody else a superplex, and it was so damn smooth, and it was so damn crisp. I don't know why I keep naming foods here. We should enter this as an Olympic sport. I mean, I would have judged it, given it a 10. The best part was yet to come as Rhea Ripley was the next entrant in there. Yes, just yes. Because she wrecked everyone who even looked like they were breathing incorrectly. And of course, once again, this gave the heels the advantage. At one point, we were just booting Asuka right in the head too. It was like torture. I don't even know why I'm laughing. And it all led to Becky Lynch being the last person in there, because of course that's what you'd want to do. She was our returning hero. She had to miss a step because she took out Cross, she took out Io Sky, and she went face to face with Bayley. And while there was like a smattering of cheers, I think WWE is probably going to have to double down on that feud to get what they want, especially because when Bex got rid of her and went face to face with Rhea Ripley again, all of a sudden the fans got excited. This is when it all went off, because War Games, I'm probably going to get some of this wrong, because it's just like bang, 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 and it's hard to keep up. But Rhea hit the Riptide onto Becky Lynch, and then Asuka was back, and she went pfft, and she spat mist in somebody's face. That allowed Becky to come back with a DDT when Bayley was here, and she rose planted Lynch on that like middle bit between the two rings. It didn't look very fun. Bianca Belair was then going to try and get a Tower of Doom spot in there, but Nikki Cross cut that off with a kendo stick. When Io Sky surveyed the situation and was like, no, 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 like that 2 Unlimited song from the 90s, she went to the top cage and she did a moonsault. A moonsault, people. Back to the scarometer. We flipping give it a spin. Look at that. The ultimate scary. Cross and Bliss then somehow handcuffed each other, but they were still doing moves. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. When Rhea Ripley was back just being raw, and she beat up everyone. Ladders were then being broken and finishing moves were being busted out, including Bianca Belair grabbing Bayley and KODing her into the side of the cage, and that made me feel oogly boogly because it can't be nice when we got to our finish. And you ain't gonna believe this. Because Io Sky and poor Dakota Kai were placed on a table, and because of that, Becky Lynch, who was only just come back from shoulder surgery or shoulder problems, went to the top of the cage and was like, she's not going to do anything. Someone's going to cut her off. Give it a minute. Give it a second. Wait a minute. Nobody's cutting her off. And she jumped and she hit a leg drop onto the table through these two people. And she absolutely killed them. I shouted out, excuse me, what are we doing? And look what it did to the scarometer. It's absolutely broken, excuse me, scarometer. And of course that got the 1, 2, 3. I mean, how else were you going to top this, even if you tried? So Becky Lynch got the win. All the good guys stood tall. And the only thing that surprised me here is that we didn't do any teasing with Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt. But there was nothing wrong with that, because this was far more focused, and sometimes being focused is good. It absolutely gets it up. You should go time to time to watch it. During this too, I saw it, and you're all wonderful human beings. In the crowd, there was a sign that said, Simon, give this an up. So you, of course, you do get an up, and you're all lovely, and you make me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. No idea how we did get here, but it's an absolute pleasure. Let's keep this train of fun going. Also, yes, up. We got Brock Lesnar video package after this, which must mean something. And then we went to the backstage area with the bloodline. Because Jey Uso was just being a massive snitch and saying to Roman Reigns, oh, Sami Zayn lied to me. He was talking to Kevin Owens, and I think we need to do something here. I mean, the only reason I didn't kill him is because you didn't give the order. I was like, yeah, right, Jay, whatever. Reigns did have an interesting solution to this, because he was like, look, Jay, you need to focus on going to the ring later and kicking some ass, but please do bring Sami Zayn to me, because I'm going to look into his eyes and then I'll know. And I was like, what are you, Superman? Doesn't make any sense. Still, this was such a good segment because you just want to see how it's all going to play out, and holy crap, did it play out well. They all deserve some kind of medal. Whoever followed the first match was also going to be in a little bit of bother because, of course, the fans were going to be super into that. However, we rolled out AJ Styles and Finn Balor, and they just did exactly what they needed to do. They got a good 20 minutes, which is absolutely what they deserved. And once again, the internet must be melting down because on commentary, Michael Cole was just going, oh yeah, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Oh yeah, Bullet Club. Later on, in the Men's War Games match, he even talked about WCW, and I had to look out the window to make sure I wasn't in an alternate reality, but no, still stupid Earth. The big spin is that we were always going to have to do something with Judgment Day and the OC, because if we didn't, it wouldn't have made any sense. But actually, we handled it quite nicely, because early on, Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio were being massive goobers, so Gallows and Anderson just chased them away through the crowd, which means we could focus on Styles versus Balor. Good. It meant it was time to trade off, and they just went, you do a move, I'll do a move, I'll kick you in the head, but you kick me in the head. When Finn Balor was like, ha, I've got a plan. I'm sick and tired of doing my maneuvers, so I'm going to do one of yours. And he went to hit the Styles Clash. That didn't work, because AJ Styles hit him with the Pele kick. But honestly, they are just such good professional wrestlers. Kind of makes me mad. Never going to be this good. Balor also was able to get a boot in there, and this is when he started to work over AJ Styles' midsection and decided to break his neck. And now you're being like, wait a minute, what? That sounds absolutely disgusting. Well, he did hit a neck breaker, so what else was he trying to do? And at this stage, Balor just decided, oh, well, I've won. Why don't I hit the coup de grace? But he missed. And I tell you, we may have to start a coup de grace counter. Finn rarely hits it anymore. It was so damn good though, because when Styles did evade this, he went right into the calf crusher, and Finn Balor sold this so well, and the only way he got out of it was by grabbing AJ's head and just smashing it into the mat over and over again. I don't know why I like that spot, but I do. This then went off because Balor was being Balor and AJ was being AJ. I think they were just dancing at one point. They were so in tune with each other. And I won't lie, I kind of just sat there and I watched it. I like to make notes and I like to write down the moves, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy the ride. And look at me, I absolutely did. Because it basically became a sporting contest by the end of this, like the World Cup's on right now, soccer or football, where sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, it's the 89th minute, who is going to get a goal? And in this case, it was just AJ Styles, because he was able to hit the follow-on forearm and he beat Finn Balor for the 1-2-3. And that kind of sounds anticlimactic, but it wasn't, because it was the complete antithesis to the other crazy stipulation matches on the card. And I totally loved it. If you want to do it again at WrestleMania, you absolutely can. Give it an up. Quick Liv Morgan and Ozzy Osbourne video after this, because he was providing the official theme song, so why not? When we were told that no, Raquel Rodriguez will not be here this evening, because she's got a broken arm, which meant it was time for Shotzi versus Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's title. Now look, I just need to get this off my chest. I like Ronda Rousey and I like Shotzi. I think they're very good professional wrestlers. You can't fluke your way into this spot. You have to have something, but on some nights things just don't click. And I have to say, I've got to be honest, I think that was just one of these nights. Of course, Shayna Baszler was going to be helping out Ronda, and Shotzi tried to get back into this by taking them both out, but they just tried to keep doing things and they didn't land exactly how they wanted. Like at one point they were going to do that tornado DDT onto the ring apron, and Ronda kind of just crumpled down onto the floor. Now, she didn't mean to do this. I've seen some horrible things on the internet. You gotta hold your hands up. Can't even talk. Gotta hold your hands up and call a spade a spade. However, they did go into the ring apron. Hang on. Hello and welcome to Rapidly. My name is Mime and Scylla, and our first answer is this: the hardest part of the ring. Weird looking hair guy. What is the ring apron? That's right! The fans soon started chanting for Sasha Banks, which you never want because Sasha wasn't involved here. But of course, I do hope she comes back soon. And then we did this bit where Shotzi jumped off Barry Barricade onto Ronda and Shayna and a bunch of fans. But once again, that didn't really work as intended because the commentators were all like, oh my gosh, they hit some fans. I'm like, it's so obvious. These are not fans. And they're paid off wrestlers. I don't know, man. It just... well, I don't even know. It ended so fast too because Ronda just locked in the armbar and Shotzi tapped out. And the whole time we tried to sell it as, oh my God, Shotzi, she's such a warrior. She has so much heart. And all of that is true. But to me, all of this has been a Liv Morgan situation. I don't think it helped Shots at all. You got to give it a down. I then got excited. Why? There was a video package for Cody Rhodes. Now, who knows what his rehab situation is, but he must be able to come back within the next few months. What I would do is I would hold off to the Royal Rumble and I'd have him with the thing. He is just ready to be a super duper breakout star. I mean, he already was, but he's going to be bigger still. Very pumped for it. We then carried on anything with earlier because Roman Reigns had summoned Sami Zayn into his locker room. And it was basically like, right, Sam, you tell me what has gone on recently. And because Zayn is a honorary Uce, he told him, yes, I talked to Kevin Owens. This is what Kevin Owens said. But really, I wouldn't call it a conversation. I just stood there while he ranted and raved. Kind of true. I was laughing because Roman phrased this like, did you talk to Kevin Owens? As if that was Sami Zayn's ex-partner and Roman was jealous. But Sami did explain it all like he was Clarissa, with Reigns responding, look, I understand he used to be your friend, but you're in the bloodline now, and that's family, and obviously, as the name suggests, that's blood. I was like, tears in my eyes. This was so good. Sami then got all emotion about this because he is so happy to be involved, when Roman looked at him like he was going to rip his head off before going, ha ha ha, let's go to the ring and let's do it. And then he hugged Zayn, and even though he was smiling at first, his face then turned to thunder. I was like, Sami, I think you better run away. So you do just have to give this stuff an up, because I was excited about the War Games main event anyway, but this just turned it into Mega Fun 9000. So yeah, give it an up. And then my prediction was right, and I actually jumped for joy, because I never get these things right, but it was Seth Rollins taking on Bobby Lashley, taking on Austin Theory for the US title, and flub me, Austin Theory won. Kinda. Now, I assume what I was going to be saying was, oh, well, this was the next step in making Austin Theory's new character all edgy, not Adam Copeland. But actually, it didn't do that at all. Because Theory won by a fluke. Of course, Bobby was all over everyone because his new character is just Beastman, I'm going to kill you. But when he was about to pin Seth Rollins, do you know what Austin Theory did? He pulled the referee out the ring. And why did he do that? Because, of course, that's what Bobby Lashley did to Austin Theory when Austin was going to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. There it is. The sprinkling of seeds is the little thing. Lashley was livid at that, so went to Merc Theory, but it didn't work out at all because Austin got Sim with the steel steps and just went blop and hit him with them. And given that Rollins was dead, Theory was like, well, I'll go beat him up instead. And he did do it for a little while, but you know the deal. Seth was then doing kicks, he was doing punches, and he just did as many dives as he possibly could. 2022 wrestling. Rollins was then going for the stomp, but it became tit for tat because Bobby Lashley then stopped that. And because Rollins was a bit confused, all of a sudden from nowhere, he was on the Hurt Lock. But of course, Austin Theory saw this and was like, no! So he jumped in onto Bobby Lashley's back and he put him in a sleeper. So even while it looked like Seth was going to tap out, eventually Bob was like, well, I can't breathe, so he had to let go. This is how you do a triple threat match. Eventually, Lashley did throw Theory out the ring, but then he turned around and he got pedigreed, which was 1-2 kick out. And it was then all over the place because Austin got rid of Rollins and he was going to go for the A-Town down, but Bobby Lashley decided he didn't want to be hit by that move. Then all of a sudden, Austin Theory was in the Hurt Lock. This was absolutely crazy. Austin has been watching his tapes though, because he used the Bret Hart, well, I'm going to drag you over to the turnbuckle and I'm going to push you off into the pin. And the only reason that didn't work is because at this juncture, Seth Rollins glided off the top rope and he hit a frog splash. You gotta do it. Round of applause. Somehow Bobby then put them both in the Hurt Lock, so I was laughing again because this guy. But of course, that is basically a move that is gonna wear you out. So when they were all done, they all flopped down on their sides, and Seth Rollins saw this and decided he was Super Mario because he ran and he jumped off Bobby Lashley's back and he gave Austin Theory the curb stomp. No, he didn't. It was the other way around. He jumped off Austin Theory's back and he gave Bobby Lashley the curb stomp. Look at me. I can't even get the facts right. I watched this 4 times. It's not an easy thing to pull off. Theory did indeed break that up, and then we got to the finish, and this was all nuts as well. Because Rollins went for his, I'm going to give you a superplex, and then I'm going to give you a Falcon Arrow. But when Theory was up for that last bit, Bobby Lashley ran in, he hit the spear, and because everyone was knackered, Austin Theory basically fell onto Seth Rollins, but he was totally knocked out. So we did the finish from Austin versus Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, back at the 3 stages of hell. Because that was a pinning predicament. So the ref went, all right, 1, 2, 3. Austin Theory is the new champ. And look, sure, that was a little bit goofy, but who cares about that? It's professional wrestling. I don't want boring finishes all the time. I want you to think outside of the box. And while it's hilarious that this is a rule in wrestling, like there was no force by Austin Theory. He was quite literally knocked out, but he just happened to be in a pinning position. Who cares? Like, who cares? I think Austin Theory being the champion is the right thing to do, and we protected Bobby Lashley, and we protected Seth Rollins, who right now has to go babyface. So I enjoyed this muchly, and it's getting it up. Roman Reigns was then telling Jey Uso not to worry about Sami Zayn because he'd done his eye trick. So I was worrying, so I thought my heart was going to break. So this was basically like Ralph Wiggum. I mean, we all know what's going to happen, so you just want to shout, run, Sammy, run. This also meant it was time for our main event, which was the men's War Games. It must have gone around about 40 minutes, but what a so-cake this was. Not a so-cake, spectacle. What are you doing, you stupid autocorrect? Although a so-cake does sound delicious. No, it doesn't. Anyway, it was the Bloodline taking on the Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens, and holy hell, did we have fun here. I mean, we told so many stories, there was a bunch of crazy spots, and honestly, from second 1 to second 792 or whatever it would be, I just thought it was so engaging, you gotta give it another round of applause. We started with Jey Uso versus Butch, with Butch just trying to rip every bone out of Jey's body, which is not a normal thing to do. And as soon as Uso found his feet and started to get going, of course Rich Holland got in there, and he was able to have the advantage, because in this War Games, the good guys were able to secure it. This meant poor Jey got absolutely wrecked, but that does kind of tie into everything, because he will give everything to the Bloodline, including his body. Now, it did look like he was going to be okay, because Jimmy Uso was the next guy in, but this is when Roman became the head of the Mafia, and he was like, no, Jimmy, you're not going, but you, Sami Zayn, are. You go work with Jey Uso or else. And this was so damn smart I could have cried, and it was such a small touch, but it added so much in there. And while they were right for a little while, eventually they started to argue, which is when Butch was like, okay, and he did this moonsault thing off the side of the cage. Holland was about to do the same thing to Jey, but that's when Sami Zayn saved him, so finally they were on the same page. But it sucked to be them, because Drew McIntyre was in, He threw everyone around. This was going to end with another superplex onto Jey Uso, but do you know why this didn't happen? Because Sami Zayn saved him once again, so you could just see what direction we were going in here. But look at me, I'm an absolute mess. I was so excited. Sadly, Uso did still get superplexed because Ridge Holland got involved and he took out Sami. But that's when Roman decided, all right, Jimmy, you're allowed to get in there now. And he brought some tables to the ring. I just don't get it. Why is nobody content with the massive steel cage? That's not enough for you. This is like going to a birthday and bringing your own birthday cake. There's already a cake. Amazingly, this somehow ruined the relationship between Sami and Jey as they started to argue about who should set up the table. And Jimmy was trying to calm this down, which is when we cut to Roman Reigns, who was basically face palming and doing this. This is the greatest moment that has ever happened in the history of professional wrestling. And while it was kind of comedic, it also just came with a bunch of emotion. This is why the bloodline is one of the best things in wrestling. Thankfully, they didn't find a way to calm down, but this is when Kevin Owens was in there. And you already know the deal. He's not coming alone, even if he didn't have a +1. He brought some chairs. He started swinging this like a baseball bat. What that led to, though, was eventually Kevin looking at Sami Zayn and Sami Zayn eventually looking at Kevin. I mean, you knew we were going to get that spot. But I think Ridge Holland spied this from afar and was like, why are they looking at each other? This is meant to be a fight. We went and hit Sami Zayn. KO then put Jimmy through a table and Sam was also getting beaten up because, of course, the bloodline were a man down. But this is when we remembered, oh yeah, we should continue to make Solo Sikoa look like an absolute badass because he was the next guy in and he just wrecked everybody. I mean, he even gave a spinning solo to Drew McIntyre through a table later on. So once again, I'm getting the hands out like a seal, but this has been one of the best call-ups ever. I mean, he also no-sold a bunch of Kevin Owens' offense, which means somebody in the back had told him, you have to be a damn magic man out there. And we cut to Roman Reigns, who had this massive smile on his face. Well, that didn't last, because then it was time for Sheamus. He ran wild, which once again meant Roman was now looking at the floor like, why did I decide to do this? He was like some kind of teacher. But of course, he was the last guy into this thing. And once again, his final boss energy just gets bigger and bigger and increases. At one point, you're going to defeat him and have a second form. It meant we got the big old spot where one team is looking at the other team and the other team is looking at the other team before they do attack. And then all the good guys grabbed the bad guys and they did the 10 beats of the Bo-Ran on like every other person. So you had one-on-one, 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 one-on-one. The fans absolutely loved this. So did I. It was great. It then got even better though because Sheamus, as he was in control, went to bro kick Roman Reigns. But who got in the way and took it for him? It was Solo Sikoa. He's like the most loyal dude on the planet. Roman was also able to hit a spear, but Butch was able to break that up at 2. Then it all went off again. Because the story continued as Jey went to give a super kick to Butch, but he got out of the way, meaning that Uso hit Sami Zayn. And once again, I was chuckling because Jey Uso was kind of bothered, but not really, because nobody has ever hated anybody more in professional wrestling than Jey Uso hates Sami Zayn. The Usos did get the 1D on Butch, but Ridge Holland was breaking up covers again, which was basically his role here. And I think Romans had decided that, oh man, this dude is such a nuisance. So he speared him through a table. Sikoa was then back, and this is when he threw Drew through his table when Kevin Owens popped up and he hit the stunner on Solo Sikoa. What? Reigns stopped that at 2, which meant finally we got down to Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns, and surely we're going to be able to do that at the Royal Rumble. And even though they hit moves on each other, it was KO that hit the pop-up powerbomb, and it was KO that hit the Stone Cold Stunner. So he had our super-duper world champion beat, and the referee went 1, and the referee went 2, and just as the referee was about to hit 3, who stopped his hand hitting the mat? That's right, it was Repo Man. No, it wasn't, it was Sami Zayn. So flood me sideways, this was just excellent storytelling, and once again they looked at each other because the emotion was too much. Jimmy Uso then came up with a super kick, Kevin Owens blocked that, but when he was, Zayn dropped to his feet and went kablamo, and he hit Kevin Owens right in the dick. He then turned to Roman Reigns, who's like, do it, Sammy, do it. So he ran into the corner, and he smashed KO with the haluva kick. Kevin fell down. Sammy then told Jey Uso, hit the splash, hit the splash. So Jey Uso did, and he pinned Kevin Owens for the 1, 2, 3. Reigns hugged Sammy after this too, as did Jey Uso, and every single person in that arena was just pouring their hearts out at this. And honestly, I don't think you could have done this any better, because now I'm like, well, are they going to turn on Sami Zayn? Are they not going to turn on Sami Zayn? Because without Sami Zayn, they wouldn't have won this match. I mean, of course, they're going to, but this is why it's so damn good. To the point, it doesn't just get an up, it gets a golden up. I could sit here until the day I die, and I don't think I would have come up with a better idea than this. So I just had a great time with this year's Survivor Series. I mean, it must be the best version of this event in years. Everything was so damn good. Apart from Ronda versus Shotzi, but they just had an off night. Who the hell cares? We can move on. This is getting it up. Now, please do leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of the premium live event last night. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. You know the deal. WhatCulture.com. Follow us on social media. There's other videos, especially ups and downs. Please watch the ups and downs. Otherwise, what the hell am I doing with my life? My name is Sami for What Culture. Thank you very much for joining me as always. See you soon.